I love selling homes. You get to meet people, go into their house, tell them that they need to reorganize, they need to put things away, they need to pull things out, they need to stage it, they need to clean the windows, they need to do all these things to make it in its best light. That's my job. And in the process, I get to meet their dog, I get to meet their neighbors, I get to hang out with their kids. I really get to spend some real cool quality time with somebody that has a real need. They're looking to flip the page in their life. They're going on to another chapter, which involves maybe grandchildren in Texas, or maybe that new child requires another bedroom. It is a neat job. And that's where we've got the responsibility to help them get to where they want to go. There's three main parts of selling a home. The first part is building the rapport and building up their trust that you're the right person and you're the right fit for their move. The second part is the full-on evaluation, the staging, and all of that goes with getting that home up to its best appearance, smell. And then the third part is all the marketing. It's everything that once that home goes on the market, what are you going to do? What are your steps to get that raw product, show it off, and get it sold? So that's what I'm going to be going over here today. And there's breakout modules that really will go in depth, but right now I'm going to give you an overview of each piece of that. So, the call comes in. Ring, ring. You've got a potential home seller on the line. Need to know where you're going. I'm always thinking, what is my roadmap, the quickest roadmap to go from a cold call to an appointment, to them getting some ink on some paper and building that trust, that relationship, and showing them I know where we're going as well, and I'm going to lead them. Having clearly defined scripts is a must. And I use a sheet. I have a phone sheet, so when that call comes in, and I've got 50 other things going on, I can go right to that sheet. I can quick grab it. Oh, I've got a seller call. I've got a buyer call. And I can stop where I'm at. I can hit the reset real quick and say, oh, thank you so much for calling. How did you find out about me? Oh, you got one of my calendar magnets. Oh, it's working. Yes. When were you thinking about making this move? Where are you going? And when's the soonest that we can all get together? I would like for both you and your husband to be there, if at all possible, so that we can all be on the same page right from the very beginning. It's having those scripts makes it just roll off your tongue when the money is on the line, truly. The relationship is on the line. So that is the first step, is just really digging in and setting that appointment. Many times, it's interesting that people will call and they have a need, but they're a little bit non-committal sometimes. And it is our job to lock them into a time. Hey, tell you what, I've got some time either Friday at 5 o'clock or Saturday, up until noon. Lock them into a time. And maybe they'll offer up a different time at that point. But it's really key to make sure that you set that appointment with them as quickly as possible. So then the next step, after you've got that appointment set, is to do your research. They're going to want your professional opinion on the property. They're going to want to know your valuation. They're going to want to know everything about the whole process. So I find that you can't be over-prepared for that first meeting. You need to know where you're going. You need to know what it's going to take. What I do is I drive by the property. Well, if I've got an appointment for tomorrow, which I do, I've already driven past the house. I've checked out the neighborhood around that house to see what are some extra factors we might have to deal with. Is there a barking dog next door? Is there a bunch of trash at the neighbors? Is their house needing some care? So at least I know I'm not showing up surprised. Take a picture of it. I'll use that on the front of the marketing that I'm going to give them, the market analysis, so that they can see exactly where we're at. So the second step is truly getting all your ducks in a row so that you can speak to them. I will then go on to the multiple listing service, as well as I will check out all the solds in the property in the area. I'll find out what is currently active, because that's our competition. So I want to know what we're competing against. I want to look at what is currently under contract, so then I can see how fast did that go under contract and what price were they starting at. We don't know until it's sold exactly how much it sells for, but at least that can kind of give us a starting point. Okay, so this wasn't too high to get an offer. And then I'll start breaking it down from there. I'll take a look at those pictures, and so that I've got a clear idea of what that home is going to compare to. Another thing I like to do is, if there's vacant homes that are currently active, I'll go in and look at those homes, so then I can say, okay, your home is similar to this one that's going to be your competitor. And it has this a little nicer, doesn't have this what your house offers. So then I am able to get more of an apples to apples feel for the home that I'm building the rapport with, and the family that I'm going to help move. I'll also look at all the solds. The solds are the best indication of value, even though market value is truly what somebody is willing to sell their home for and someone is willing to pay for that home. So that is market value. And in this crazy market, it's kind of like the Wild West out there. It is really a crazy market. So you have to be ready for that as well. One tip that I'll give you right now is find an appraiser that you can be friends with. So then you can just call and bounce some ideas off of them. Hey, I've got this home that's coming up in this area, and the last homes have gone 10% over list price, or whatever the case may be. What do you think if I go at this price for this square footage and things like that? So it's really helpful to have somebody that you can call and he can say, hey, you know what, there's been a downward trend in this area, or whatever the case may be. They have their thumb on the pulse because they are reporting back to the lenders on the current values, market conditions, and such. I've been fortunate enough to build a very strong relationship with several appraisers, so I do have that. And what's kind of cool is they call me, hey, you know what? This home sold so quick. Why do you think it was? What was going on? And so they do use you as well, utilize your information. Then you're all prepared. You've got kind of an idea of what the house is worth before you walk through that door. Then you're going to add a little for granted, or subtract a little for the garage being turned into an extra bedroom, or whatever you walk through and see, you're able to start basing your value on that. I'm going to teach another class at another time of the steps between walking out your office with that market analysis and actually getting through the house, because there are some very good steps that you can take to get, and it's a roadmap from the door to the kitchen table. And I'll just give you kind of an overview. This is one thing that I did early on in my career that really helped me stand out in my market. I went to a 3-day listing clinic. I was meeting up with all the experienced agents in our office, and I kept asking, what is it? How do you do this listing thing? As an early agent, I understood that you need to list to last. So rather than having one buyer in your car and showing them 100 homes, you've got 100 agents coming and showing your home. So you've got a much better chance for making a sale. So I just went after listings. I started calling myself the listing king. I started owning it. And there was a listing clinic up in Vancouver. It was a 3-day program. It was $800 before the hotel room and the travel and everything else. And I'm like, told my wife, I'm gonna go to this. And she's like, are you crazy? I said, you want me to succeed? And this is a tool that I really, really need to succeed. I really need to stand out. And I am so glad I went and spent that $800. Gave me all the nuts and bolts of what I'm giving you right here. And the most important thing they gave me is the roadmap from that front door when you're looking to build rapport to having them trust you enough to sign and put me in charge of the whole trip. And it's been just phenomenal to have that skill set so that I know where I'm going. There's no doubt in my mind. I've practiced it so many times. At first it felt kind of canned, but once you memorize it, you're able to internalize it, and then you really are able to maximize it. So that's going to be a whole nother story to go through that. And one thing that they did was kind of cool for that listing appointment is they had a door right in the middle of the room. And you got to practice knocking on that door, because I tell you, your first door that you're going to knock on, even though you've got an appointment, you're like, oh, what am I going to do? What am I going to say? Where am I going to go? Once you've knocked on that door, in 3 days I knocked on that door 30, 40 times. And each time they played a different scenario. And it was very interesting now I look back at it, and I'm like, that was very ingenious. I'm not afraid of any door now. It doesn't matter. However it plays out, I'm ready. I've got those skills. Another thing I did that my wife thought I was crazy is I came back from this and I had no listings. And I told her I'm going to go and buy 10 yard signs. I'm going to go buy the posts. I'm going to buy the flyer boxes. I'm going to buy the lock boxes. She's like, you don't have one listing. I'm like, I know. But watch this. And it was like $1,600. And she's like, okay, now we're getting up around $3,000 already for all of this stuff. And I'm like, just watch. And inside of about 45 days, I had to order more signs and lock boxes because they were all out in people's front yards. And I had been through 10 different homes and earned their trust, and ultimately went on to sell all 10 of those. So I'm not saying it to brag, I'm just saying if you know where you're going, it's much easier to get there. And that's what I'm going to show you. Now the marketing. So you've got the contract signed, and we're going to go through that whole process of knocking on doors, but I'm going to get you there. But right now, let's just talk about the marketing. First thing is the big sign in the front yard. It's got to be clean. It's got to be crisp. It's got to be your best, because that's the first impression when somebody pulls up. And looking over the yard, how does the yard look? That's part of your prepping the sellers, because that is a buyer's first impression. I have one, I'm meeting them tomorrow, and I've already talked to them a little bit about first impressions. I'm like, we're going to meet tomorrow, and I'm going to lead you through this whole thing. But today, go out and stand in the middle of the road and look at your house. And anything you see is out of place, everybody else is going to see is out of place also. But we're going to go and get you a punch list, and we're going to go through all of it. But just be thinking that way. You're the buyer now. What do you see? So the marketing needs to be crisp. And you kind of need to lead them to their own conclusions in many times. I recommend professional photography and a drone in this day and age. So then you truly put each room in its best light. And it's crazy. Even on the cloudiest of days, I just have a listing that is closing on Monday. And it was pouring and it was dark, but we already had the photo shoot set up. And she's like, oh, I got this. And she made that house, you couldn't even tell it was cloudy outside. It was crazy. I'm like, how'd you do that? And they carry around strobes and all this stuff, and it was really cool how they can brighten it up. So I highly recommend professional photography and a drone. Can't fly a drone in the rain, I found out, so we forego that. But at least the inside was enough to get somebody to say, yes, I can live here and I want to live here. Make sure your flyers and everything are sharp. Make sure all of the information, go over it twice with the seller, just to make sure that you know where that park is, or whatever the case. If you're not fully familiar with the area, ask them, why did you move here? And that's going to be a big indication of why somebody else is going to want to buy it. So it's these kinds of questions for your marketing that's going to help you really build a case for somebody else to come in and, hey, top dollar on this, or in this day and age, over top dollar. That's what we're really looking for in today's market. I will be giving you a handout after all this is done, just to kind of get you thinking in the right way. This is just an intro to my listing clinic that I'm putting on now. But this is some things, as brand new agents, you need to list to last. You need to be ready with the roadmap, not only so you know where you're going, but so that the sellers know where you're going. And so I'll be handing out these flyers. Please sign up for the clinic, and I'll show you how to list to last. Thank you.